Welcome to News 9 Live, and you are watching On Point. And before I introduce you to top on points, let me take you through the headlines. Nearly 65% polling recorded in first phase of Jharkhand elections, over 60% polling in Wayanad. Relief to Siddaramaiah in the Maharshi Valmiki Development Cooperation Corruption case. High Court refuses to hand over investigation in the case to CBI. Supreme Court bars Ajit-led NCP from using photos and videos of Sharad Pawar for campaigning. Delhi chokes as air pollution turns severe for the first time in this season. Centre issues guidelines to crack down on misleading ads by coaching centres. Election Commission officials check Eknath Shinde's bag in Palghar amid Uddhav Thackeray checking Rao.
यूरिन पॉट वगैरह नहीं है, कपड़े थे यूरिन पॉट नहीं.
Supreme Court terms bulldozer demolition chilling sight, says executive cannot replace judiciary. Centre deploys 20 additional companies of Central Armed Police Forces in Manipur. And this video goes viral. Nitish Kumar seen touching Prime Minister Modi's feet at rally in Bihar. Welcome. The first on point is on the verdict delivered by the Supreme Court of India on bulldozer action. The Supreme Court has banned it. The verdict will kill the politics around bulldozer, which was breaching the line of propriety and law. The politics around bulldozer was spawned in Uttar Pradesh, which was followed by many chief ministers in India. Bulldozer had become a symbol of detente. It became a symbol of aggressive politics, whereby executive was seen dispersing verdict and not waiting for the court to take action. The court called bulldozer action unconstitutional. I wish this order would have come early. Such was the impact of the judgment that even the ruling party welcomed it. The judgment is a reminder that there is a difference between justice and retribution. Let me take you through what the court said. Court said executive arbitrary demolition of homes and ruled unlawful arbitrary demolition breaches the separation of powers. Officials must be accountable for the action. The executive cannot declare person guilty. Demolition without due process unconstitutional. It also said executive must not act as a judge by demolishing properties as punishment. Demolitions based only on accusations undermine the rule of law. Acting both as judge and enforcer breaches the separation of power. No demolition without due process. No demolition without prior show cause notice. Demolition proceedings must be videographed for accountability. The order excludes unauthorized structure on public land. Even the accused or the convicted have rights and safeguards. Depriving people of shelter violates fundamental rights. Families or neighbors cannot be punished for one person's action. Authorities must prove full demolition is the only option before dehousing. Officials acting arbitrarily must be held accountable. The state cannot take arbitrary or excessive action. Rights violation by the state require restitution. The court also said the unlawful demolition may require officials to compensate victims and restore property. Protecting liberty is essential for constitutional democracy is what the court said. The court also said that the arbitrary state power must be checked to maintain public trust. It said demolition without due process are unconstitutional. The state must follow lawful procedure in handling property rights. The verdict is a slap on all politicians who held bulldozer politics. Bulldozer politics was not only partisan but created fear in people. Now this is what BJP had to say after the order.
भारतवर्ष में कानून का राज है, संविधान का राज है। जो भी यहां होता है संविधान के अनुसार होता है, और अगर कुछ संविधान के अनुसार नहीं होता है उसके लिए भी प्रावधान है। आज पूरे हिंदुस्तान में यदि अपराधियों के मन में कहीं न कहीं डर है, तो हमें लगता है कि अपराधियों के मन में डर होना एक अच्छे देश की निशानी होती है। जनता के मन में सुख और अपराधियों के मन में डर, ये जरूर होना चाहिए और सभी नियमों का पालन करके होना चाहिए। हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस वर्डिक्ट का स्वागत करते हैं।
Now let me straight away go to Sunita Aran. In studio I'm joined by Brijesh Pandey. I mean, so this order not only kills an act, but I think this order is a deterrent against the politics that was seeping into the Indian political culture. Isn't that so, Sunita?
Yeah, to some extent I agree with you, because as long as the bulldozers were being used against the criminals, the established criminals, mafias like Atiq Ahmad or Mukhtar Ansari, I don't think so there was any hue and cry. Everybody thought that even if there also there was a view that why punish the entire family for crime of one person, but still people thought it is all right. But once they started demolishing houses just because within say 2 or 3 days of a crime committed, without the crime is even established against the person, like it has happened in so many cases, and they demolish the house. The point is, before the conviction, if you demolish the house and then the charges are not proved, what do you do? And then home is not just, brick and mortar. Home is something which people make. Now, the chief ministers or the BJP is of the view that it instills fear in the mind of criminals. But not all of them were criminals to that extent. Encroachments have been removed. Again, who's going to decide encroachments? And why officers, if they allowed encroachments, people have been paying water tax, property tax for 25 years or 30 years, and then their houses are demolished because they were built on encroached land. What about the officers who allowed them to happen? So I think it's a very good order wherein I think due diligence will be taken before demolishing homes. And crime of one person, it could be first crime of a person got involved in a mob. Like in Bharuch, it happened, it was a mob, and then in retaliation, there was firing. So why should the entire, community or several homes get demolished? There are other punishments also. Put them in jail, whatever you want to do. And only by bulldozers can we instill fear in the mind of criminals. I think the rule of law is very strong. The only thing we need to do is we need to establish crimes, file charge sheets, and not delay them.
Just to you, point blank, on point, this was started under the dispensation of Yogi Adityanath, who continues as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. This bulldozer action is part of a political narrative. Do you think, in a plain and simple language, it not only destroys that narrative, but also says that it was built on wrong legal practice?
Well, Karthikeya, it would definitely take away the sheen of the macho narrative, political narrative, which was
Macho
built
narrative?
Macho narrative. But I would say that, it's der aaye, durust aaye. But I would also go on to say that it's a sad reflection on all of it. You know, the law enforcement agencies of the state, whichever state it was being practiced, the judiciary itself, and all more so people who thought that, you know, this instant justice, you know, 2 minutes noodle kind of a justice would impose fear in the mind of the criminal. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And what was found was that, you know, it was used against one particular community in a much more, you know, stronger way than it was used against the other particular community. It became highly politicized. And it was used to further your own political agenda, irrespective of the state where it was being practiced. The sorry state is that the courts also refused to listen to it. The courts also refuse to listen to it. Otherwise, what we are hailing as a landmark judgment, what we are hailing as a big judgment by the Supreme Court, basically, Karthikeya, if you sum it up in one line, it is court asking the state to follow the municipal laws. It's just municipal law, Karthikeya, where you are supposed to give everybody whose house you are going to demolish 15 days of judgment. It is part of the law.
Isn't the story state that for every important issue, that the matter has to be arbitrated by the Supreme Court of India?
Well, when I said that it's a sorry state of affairs for the courts also can't, you know, shirk away from the justice. What was Allahabad High Court doing? What was Madhya Pradesh High Court doing? You know, you sit on judgment, you reserve judgment, you come up with something after so many days, you know, when the injustice has already been done. Is the court going to listen to those people whose houses have been demolished? Is court going to take action against one senior IAS officer who is responsible for it? The court will not do it. If the High Court pulls up a senior IAS officer, the Supreme Court says that it grants them relief, saying that, oh no, you know, there's a propriety, there's a way you should deal with IAS and IPS officers. Then who is going to be responsible for that? Junior engineer, a sub-divisional clerk? Who's responsible for it? One person. Is the court taking any one person into account? Any one senior officer who's responsible? As Sunita was very rightly saying that 25 saal se you are paying water tax and all. Who is responsible for those water tax?
But you know,
and if it is illegal, why don't you pay back their entire water tax which you have collected?
Sunita, there is one thing, you know, to use the bulldozer against criminals and mafia. But the fact of the matter is that the court is saying that you are breaching the line between executive and judiciary. That's one. That's constitutional propriety. The second thing is that the political dispensation was whetting the appetite of people who felt that justice is equal to retribution. And the third and foremost thing is that yes, it's understandable that, you know, the matters get mired in the court and the people wait entire lifetime for the justice to be delivered, and the executive was giving this impression that, you know, you will get justice through us. But then the lines were getting blurred. The lines were getting blurred. So the bulldozer, instead of doing the job for which it's built, it became a symbol of deterrent, and specifically in context of a community.
Exactly, Karthikeyan. And in fact, not many people may recall. It will be good to recall that it was Mayawati who had first used bulldozers, but it was not against any community or any caste or anybody or any criminal. She one day decided that I don't like this jail here and I want to build a park. And then bulldozers from all over the country were brought, and whole night Lucknow heard, you know, explodes and all that, and the entire jail spreading across huge land was demolished. Now, you see, as long as the bulldozers were being used against a particular community, everybody was applauding it. But when it started happening against them, like in Lucknow it happened, when they said that the houses have been built on a riverbed. So as long as Muslim houses were demolished, everybody was very happy. But when Hindus also came in the picture, the chief minister deferred the decision. So, you know, when you are talking about executive decision, I really wanted if the Supreme Court also defined what is encroachment. What is encroachment? In rural areas, it's very difficult to define an encroachment because no approvals of houses are given by anybody, or if there was a rule, it was not followed by any of the governments. Then what has happened is that the Kisans will generally build their house on their own land. And if there is a Gram Sabha land nearby and their families grow, then they encroach some of the land. So it's very difficult. Then the roads have widened. A lot of houses on the roadsides have come on the roads. So who will decide what is encroachment? Now the other issue
Sunita,
has come.
my question is very plain and simple. You understand UP like back of your hand. What happens to Yogi Adityanath's bulldozer politics? What happens to the bulldozer politics of Hemant Biswa Sarma? What happens to the bulldozer politics in Madhya Pradesh? I mean to say bulldozer, in fact, you know, bulldozer was seen in American elections. The supporters of Trump were driving bulldozers in the Midwest. So I don't think bulldozers
and the
will
moniker bulldozer Baba was given by Akhilesh Yadav.
And you know, it was not bulldozer. Bulldozer was not about a sort of a machine used for constructing or, you know, doing away with an old construction. It became a symbol of detente, a sort of politics. So I'm asking, is Yogi Adityanath's bulldozer politics the passe, or will it come in a different form of a machine?
No, I don't think so. Yogi would work on it again because it really helped build his image as somebody, a hard taskmaster who was very serious about law and order. I think the government will find ways how they can, because I have not gone through. It's for the lawyers to interpret the Supreme Court judgment. I'm very sure they'll find some ways where they follow the procedure and still bulldoze homes. But yes, it won't be something which will be done overnight. Now they'll have to, at least on the face of it, on papers, they'll have to follow some process. But I think it will continue.
Same question to you. Do you think that there will be a change in his political style after this?
Well, I think, you know, Sunita very rightly said that at least the facade of following the paper trail and things would be there. And now, you know, with the Supreme Court taking a very hard stand, if you remember, you know, 10 days back or 5 days back, the Supreme Court had penalized Uttar Pradesh government for 25 lakh rupees to be paid to a person, you know, whose house was demolished on the name of extension of roads. And when the court asked for papers and all, it was nothing was there to show or, you know, to justify their case. And the Supreme Court also asked the principal secretary to make sure that he submits an action taken report within 1 month. If the court cracks down on the administration, if the court cracks down on the IAS and IPS, trust me, it will be implemented in 1 day. But if the court doesn't crack down on IAS and IPS officers, if on administrative side, there is no way it is going to be controlled. You know, then it will be just a facade of making sure that your paperwork is complete. Because, you know, the entire process is also how it is circumvented. I'll just give you one example. Is like, you know, when demolitions were carried out, you know, you also, paste the notice there and saying that notice is always in the back date. Now the court has said that, you know, you'll have to find a website in which you have to make sure that everything is digitally stamped and all. So
But
it's very interesting to see how.
But I think people are missing they're missing woods for the trees. Sunita, larger issue is what court has said. What court has said? Court has said that you breached constitutional propriety. Court said that you breached separation of power. Matlab, court said you can't behave like judge. The court said that it is in violation of what was framed in our constitution. I would say it's an indictment not only of politics but the people who spawned this. I mean, so I don't believe that the people who are running the states were unmindful of the fact that this will be breach of the basic principle of the constitution. I refuse to believe it.
Karthikeyan, I agree with him till some action is taken against the officers who worked, who, you know, passed orders with such speed, and bulldozers, you know, there are bulldozers parked everywhere. It doesn't take more than few hours to reach homes. It will slow down the process because the court order also says that you give 15 days notice and all that stuff, you know. So I think some action against the officers, but definitely.
You know, why are we going after officers, Sunita? It's not the officers, it's directly coming from.
It's the officer. The political master can issue an order. The officer has to implement it. What is the officer there for? Is the officer there for the subservience to the political master? The IAS officer is the one who signs and then it moves forward.
See, Brijesh.
He is the one who is responsible.
Okay. But isn't this, Sunita, we are not living in utopia. All the IAS officers fall in line when there is a directive from a chief minister. It's as simple as that. It's a government with a simple majority. Now it's in coalition. But a government which has got 272 plus, or the government which has got a mandate of 300 plus, do you think any IAS officer will not listen to a political master?
No, I don't think so. They will listen to him. And if one or two they don't, then they'll be given shunting orders. I don't think so. Anybody, and especially Yogi is a different person. One has to understand his personality. He's not like chief ministers of other states. I've yet to find somebody like him who once decides, he'll find his ways to do it.
I completely agree with you, Sunita. I think he's one of those chief ministers who has spawned the politics after Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which actually was taken up by various chief ministers. And I say this not as a matter of pun, but I say this as a matter of fact, that when Yogi Adityanath deployed bulldozers in the politics of Uttar Pradesh, it was actually replicated by so many chief ministers. And this replication of bulldozer was being used and utilized by the political dispensation as a firm chief minister, or as an effective chief minister, or as a law and order chief minister, something which Mayawati had mastered in her first tenure. But when Supreme Court says it's the separation of power which has been violated, it brings me to the fundamental question that how strength in Indian politics often breaches the line of propriety and the constitution, and how people should be even more vigilant and aware what they seem to be a control or a quick action is a violation of right which the constitution is not only provided to them but also to them, because it stands as a safeguard. So this was on point 1, and in on point 1 I spoke about why this has come not only as a relief but as a rebuke. Now it's time for a short break. Please don't go away. After the break, in on point 2, we'll talk about Manipur, where fresh sound of firing from the hills has taken place. Thank you.
The next Indian icons.